The Bentley pulled up to the curb with the quiet hum of luxury. It was the kind of vehicle that made valets stand a little straighter, made front desk clerks glance twice through the glass doors, and from the driver's side, Elijah Carter stepped. The dark navy trench coat, tailored slacks, simple leather briefcase, smooth, confident walk, but above all, composure. He didn't walk like he was trying to prove something. He walked like he already had. The hotel was a sleek 5-star property in the heart of Boston. All white marble, polished brass, and moneyed silence. Inside, soft piano music played near the bar. A group of well-dressed business travelers chatted in low tones, sipping cocktails. Everything elegant. Elijah approached the front desk. Behind the counter stood a young woman, mid-20s, blonde bun, tight smile. She noticed him, and something, just something, shifted in her eyes. "Good evening, sir. Can I help you?" Polite, practiced. Elijah nodded, returned the same. "Yes, I have a reservation. Elijah Carter, for 2 nights, King Deluxe Suite." She tapped on the keyboard. Click, click, pause. Her eyes flicked up, then down, then up again. I'm not seeing it in the system. One moment, please." She turned, walked into the office behind the desk. Elijah waited. Calm. This wasn't new. This was familiar, too familiar. He'd been in hundreds of hotels, 4 continents, dozens of conferences, meetings, panels, keynotes, but every now and then, this still happened. He glanced to his right. Another guest, white, mid-30s, hoodie and jeans, approached the desk. A second clerk smiled brightly. "Hi, Mr. Whitman. Welcome back. Room 1207 is ready for you." The man chuckled, tossed a card in his pocket, and walked toward the elevators. No ID check. No delay. Elijah turned back. The blonde clerk returned. Behind her, a tall man in a blazer. Followed. Hotel manager, no doubt. The manager was in his 40s, crisp collar, square jaw. Looked like he smiled once a year. He didn't offer a hand, just stood behind the desk, arms folded. "Mr. Carter, is it?" Elijah nodded. "Yes, I reserved 2 nights King Deluxe Suite through the hotel website." The manager's eyes didn't blink. "I'm sorry. We're fully booked. There must have been a system error." Elijah paused. "Fully booked?" "Yes. Even though someone just checked in 5 minutes ago?" A flicker. Then the manager said, "He's a returning guest. We prioritize loyalty members when we're over capacity." Polite, cold, too smooth. Elijah inhaled slowly. This wasn't about a booking. Not really. Not at all. He looked the manager in the eyes, then glanced at the clerk. Both looked back at him. Just a little too blank. He turned slightly. Behind him, 2 more guests, both white, wheeled suitcases past the lobby. A bellhop greeted them, guiding them toward the elevators. "Still fully booked? Interesting." Elijah set his briefcase gently. On the floor, reached into his coat, pulled out his phone. "Would you mind saying that again? Just so I understand clearly." The manager raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? You said the hotel is fully booked, and that loyalty members are prioritized." "Correct. And that's why you can't honor my reservation?" A pause. "Yes." Elijah pressed a button on his phone. "Thank you, just wanted that on record." The manager's jaw tightened. The clerk shifted. Still, Elijah didn't raise his voice, didn't argue, didn't threaten. He simply picked up his briefcase. "You've made your choice. I'll make mine." He turned, walked out, leaving behind cold marble floors, awkward silence, and 2 staff members who suddenly didn't look so composed. Out on the sidewalk, Elijah stood for a moment. The Boston wind had picked up. It brushed against his coat. But he didn't move. Not yet. He looked at the hotel's name above the entrance. Elegant gold-plated letters gleaming in the streetlights. He tilted his head slightly. "You're going to regret this." Elijah didn't drive off right away. Instead, he crossed the street, stood beneath a quiet awning, away from the hotel's glow. The wind picked up again. This time he welcomed it. It cooled the heat slowly rising in his chest. He pulled out his phone, opened the voice memo app, hit play. We're fully booked. Loyalty members get priority. There must have been a system error. Every word was clear, crisp, professional, exactly the problem. He opened his camera, faced it toward himself. He didn't smile, didn't rehearse, he just pressed record. My name is Elijah Carter. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I travel frequently. I booked a room at the Fairmont Devon Hotel in Boston, through their website. Fully confirmed. He paused. Tonight I was denied service, not because I didn't have a reservation, not because I was late, but because... He let the silence stretch. I didn't look like their usual guests. Another pause, longer this time. So I asked them to repeat it, and I recorded it. He played the clip, then turned the camera back on himself. They lied to my face, while checking in white guests before and after me. You decide if that's a coincidence. He looked directly at the lens. Some of you will say this isn't about race. Some of you will call me sensitive. But if you've ever walked into a room and been measured before you opened your mouth, you already know the answer. He stopped. Recording. 10 minutes later, the video was on Twitter, then Instagram, then TikTok. The caption read, "Denied service, still dignified, but this isn't okay. Your Boston hotel discrimination. Elijah Carter, you're still happening." He didn't expect much, he never did. He found a small boutique hotel 3 blocks down. Nothing fancy, older, charming. The woman at the front desk greeted him with a smile that reached her eyes. "Mr. Carter, welcome. We've been expecting you." He blinked. "You have?" She nodded. "Heard there was a gentleman looking for real hospitality tonight." Elijah chuckled, just a little. "Thank you. I'm just looking for a quiet night and clean water." She handed him the key. Room 305, city view, no judgment. At 2:17 a.m., Elijah's phone buzzed. Then again, and again, and again. He opened Twitter. The video had 42,000 views. By 3:10 a.m., it hit $110,000. By sunrise, 500,000 comments flooded in. This is disgusting. How is this still happening in 2025? He handled this with more grace than I ever could. Where's the hotel's response? Anyone from Fairmont Devon want to explain? Hashtags began trending. Elijah Carter, you are hotel bias. You are black while traveling. Not just a coincidence. At 8:03 a.m., he received a message from a private account. No profile photo. Only one sentence. "I work at that hotel. Check your email in 5 minutes." Then, Elijah sat upright, waited. 5 minutes later, a file arrived, a video file titled Devon Lobby Security Footage.mp4. He opened it and watched. The security cam angle showed Elijah at the counter, calm, waiting. 2 white guests checked in before and after him. The clerk laughing as the manager whispered in her ear. The manager waving him off, despite the computer showing his reservation. Time-stamped. Undeniable. Elijah stared at the screen. The heat. In his chest was back, but it was different now. Not pain, not anger, fuel. He forwarded the video to his assistant, then typed one sentence. "Let's talk to the press." By 9 a.m., the video had over 2.3 million views. News blogs picked it up first. Then Twitter moments. Then BuzzFeed, Vox, and even CNN's morning social brief. The title? Black tech founder denied hotel service, then exposed them with one calm video. At the Fairmont Devon Hotel, chaos simmered behind the polished facade. Managers huddled in the back office. Phones rang off the hook. Emails flooded the PR inbox. Is this real? Has anyone spoken to legal? Why is there footage going around? A junior staff member whispered. It's on Good Morning America. The hotel's GM, Mr. Aldridge, slammed his phone down. No interviews, no statements, we wait for legal. But the internet didn't wait. TikTok edits appeared, overlaying Elijah's calm voice with headlines from the past. Driving while black. Shopping while black. Sleeping while black. Now, booking while black. The narrative was clear, and the country was watching. By noon, Elijah received a call from CNN, then MSNBC, then CBS This Morning. Everyone wanted the exclusive. Elijah didn't speak, not yet, but his team issued a short professional statement. Elijah Carter believes in dignity, not drama. What happened isn't unique. That's why it matters. More to come. Short, sharp, unshakable. Meanwhile, an unexpected ally emerged. A former hotel staffer, anonymously verified, posted a public tweet. This isn't the first time Fairmont Devon has done this. They have an unspoken guest profiling culture. Black and brown guests get flagged more often, double-checked, questioned. I quit last year because I was tired of staying silent. Screenshots followed. Internal memos, Slack messages. One included the manager who denied Elijah, writing, "We don't want to lower the lobby tone." That one hit hard. People reposted it with just one caption. The lobby tone. By 5 p.m., local reporters were camped outside the hotel. One held up a mic to a departing couple. "Did you know about the controversy when you checked in?" The man looked uncomfortable. We saw the video. "Yeah, it's not a good look," the woman added. "We booked this months ago, but honestly, we're thinking of leaving early." Behind them, a hotel employee rushed to close the revolving door. Inside, PR scrambled. The general manager was furious. "We need to issue something, anything." But it was too late. The story had outgrown them. That evening, a well-known TV host, Angela Hayes, mentioned it in her nightly segment. "There's something uniquely devastating about dignity in the face of injustice," she said. Elijah Carter didn't shout. He didn't demand. He simply showed the truth, and the world reacted. Elijah watched from his room. Curtains drawn, TV volume low. His phone buzzed. Another text from his team. "NBC wants you live tomorrow night, prime time." He didn't answer right away, just stared at the screen. Not out of ego, out of weight. Because this was bigger than him now. He turned the TV off, opened his laptop, pulled up his keynote slides. In bold letters he typed, "Bias doesn't always wear a hood. Sometimes it wears a name tag." He hit save, closed the file, and whispered, "Time to speak." The studio lights were warm, almost too warm, but Elijah didn't sweat. He sat tall, dark navy suit, no tie, just a crisp white shirt and quiet confidence. Across from him sat Angela Hayes, the nation's most respected evening anchor. Millions were watching, and the red live light blinked. Angela leaned in. "Mr. Carter, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me." Her tone softened. "You've said very little since your video went viral. Why speak now?" Elijah looked into the camera, not at Angela, at America. "Because it's not just about me. What happened that night happens every day. It just usually doesn't get recorded." He paused. "I'm not angry. I'm tired. Tired of the silence. Tired of the smiling discrimination. Tired of having to walk into luxury and prove I belong there." The studio was silent. No background music. No cutaways. Just truth. Angela's eyes narrowed, not out of doubt, but focus. "You've been called dignified, graceful. Some say you've handled this better than they ever could. What do you say to that?" Elijah gave a faint smile. "That's unfortunate." Angela blinked. "Unfortunate?" "Because people shouldn't have to earn their humanity with calmness. We don't ask victims of violence to be composed before we believe them. But for Black folks, we only get listened to if we're quiet, controlled, unshaken." He paused. Again, let that land. "Even our pain has to be polite." The comments section on the livestream exploded. "He's saying what so many of us feel. Give this man the microphone forever. I'm white, and this still hits me in the chest." The calm truth hurts more than any shouting ever could. Angela asked the next question carefully. "Have you heard from the hotel?" Elijah leaned back. "No." "No apology?" "Only the one they're rehearsing behind closed doors." "If they called you right now, What would you want to hear? Elijah's jaw tensed for the first time. I wouldn't want to hear anything. I'd want them to do something. Words are easy, policy is hard, accountability is harder. That quote trended within 5 minutes. Words are easy, policy is hard, accountability is harder. Angela then brought up the leaked footage. The public's seen it. The timestamp, the behavior, the clear priority of white guests. Some are calling this the most obvious case of racial bias caught on security footage in years. Do you agree? Elijah's tone remained calm, but firmer now. I think we need to stop looking for the perfectly clear case to believe black voices. It's like waiting for a fire to be 10 stories high before we call the station. But the smoke was already there, has always been there. Angela nodded, visibly moved. Elijah, what happens next? He looked straight into the camera. I'm not going away. This isn't a campaign. It's a conversation, and if you're watching this and thinking this couldn't happen to me, ask yourself why. And if you know it could, ask yourself why we keep letting it. By the time the segment ended, the live stream had 9.2 million views. Clips of Elijah's answers flooded YouTube and TikTok. Late-night shows played segments with no jokes, only applause. The next morning, Elijah's team received an anonymous message from the hotel's internal Slack channel. A manager had messaged, "We need to prepare. Legal can't cover this up anymore. He's not just a guest, he's the face of something bigger." That sentence went public and turned the tide. Reporters showed up at the hotel pressing for comment. Why hasn't there been a statement? Will someone from leadership speak out? Does Fairmont Devon believe Elijah Carter was treated fairly? All they got? Silence. Tense. Loud. Telling. But someone was watching. A major investigative show on national television reached out to Elijah's team. We want to do a full segment, sit down, studio, in depth, and we want the hotel to respond, on air. At first they declined. Then, after a quiet 24 hours, they said yes. The hotel had finally agreed to go live, to face the public, to face Elijah. The studio lights were dimmer this time, more serious, more tense. This wasn't morning news. This was Face the Nation Tonight, the kind of show where careers crumble or reputations rise. Elijah sat on the left side of the table. Same calm posture, same folded hands. Across from him sat Thomas Greer, the VP of Operations for the Fairmont Devon hotel chain. Gray suit, clean-shaven, restless fingers. He looked confident, but over-prepared, like a man who practiced every word, but forgot how to listen. The host, Monica Fields, turned to the camera. Tonight, for the first time since the incident that shocked the nation, we have both sides at the table, Mr. Elijah Carter and Mr. Thomas Greer, representing Fairmont Devon Hotels. She turned to Greer. Mr. Greer, let's begin with you. Do you acknowledge that Mr. Carter was mistreated at your property? Greer adjusted his tie. First, let me say, we deeply regret the experience Mr. Carter had. We take all guest feedback seriously, and we're conducting a thorough internal review. Elijah didn't move, didn't blink. Monica pressed. Was it racial discrimination? Greer cleared his throat. At this time, we are not prepared to label the situation under any specific terms until the review is complete. There were operational challenges that evening. Elijah finally spoke, soft but firm. 3 white guests were checked in before and after me. The room was available, the camera caught it, and the recording confirms it. Greer looked straight ahead. There may have been miscommunication. There wasn't. Elijah's voice didn't rise, but the room felt smaller now. Monica turned to Elijah. Why do you think this happened? He looked at Greer, then at the camera. Because people like me are still seen as exceptions, not expectations. When I walk into a 5-star lobby, the first assumption isn't that I'm a guest. It's that I'm lost. And when I speak up, suddenly everyone wants to be careful. Suddenly it's miscommunication. Suddenly it's not racial, but silence and denial are racial. The audience behind the cameras was dead quiet. Greer shifted. Monica asked him directly, "Mr. Greer, why did your team not issue an apology until now?" "We were advised to wait for legal review." Elijah looked at him. "You waited for legal, I waited for dignity." Boom. The phrase hit hard. It trended before the segment was over. You waited for legal, I waited for dignity. Monica turned. Serious. "So what happens next?" Greer took a breath, pulled out a piece of paper. "Our company has drafted an official apology." Elijah cut in, still calm. "Is it signed by the manager who refused me?" Pause. "Is it signed by the clerk who smirked when I walked away?" Greer hesitated. "No, but..." "Then it's not personal. And discrimination is always personal." The host looked at both men. "Mr. Carter, if this apology goes public, is it enough?" Another pause. Elijah inhaled slowly, then spoke. "I don't want an apology. I want accountability. I want policy change. I want every black guest who walks into any hotel lobby to be treated like they belong, not like they're being tolerated." He turned directly to Greer. "You want to make this right? Don't just write a letter, write a check, fund internships, sponsor future leaders, create opportunity. Because if you really regret it, don't say something, build something." Boom. That was the moment. The clip would later go viral under the title, "He didn't want an apology, he wanted change." The program ended with Greer visibly shaken, off balance. No PR script had prepared him for that kind of truth. Monica shook Elijah's hand on air. "Thank you for your clarity and your composure." Elijah just nodded. "Thank you for the space." That night, social media exploded. Again. But this time, it wasn't just Black Twitter. It was everyone. Hotel reviews tanked. CEOs from other companies commented in support. Celebrities reposted Elijah's speech, adding, "This is how you do it." This man just raised the bar. But Elijah didn't tweet that night. Didn't post, didn't celebrate. He just sat alone in his hotel room, lights off, phone muted, looking out at the city skyline, and wondering, what comes after the moment? The next morning, Elijah's team received a formal message. Not a press release, not a PR draft. A direct letter, stamped, signed, from the president of Fairmont Devon Hotels. It began with the usual. "We sincerely apologize for the events that occurred at our Boston location." But the second half, different. "We recognize that an apology alone cannot undo the harm caused. Therefore, we propose the creation of a scholarship fund in partnership with Mr. Carter to support young Black students pursuing education in hospitality and technology. We would be honored if Mr. Carter would allow us to name it after him." Elijah read the letter 3 times, once as a businessman, once as a black man, once as the boy he used to be. He didn't smile, didn't scoff. He just placed the letter on the table and walked to the window. Outside, the city moved like nothing had happened, but everything had. His assistant asked, "Do you believe them?" Elijah was quiet. Then, "I believe they're scared. I believe they're calculating. But I also believe this could matter, if we do it right." Later that day, Elijah released a statement. "I have received Fairmont Devon's proposal. I appreciate the gesture, but I do not lend my name lightly. Public accountability is the first step, not the final one. I am open to a conversation, but it must happen publicly, not in boardrooms, not behind closed doors. Let the people who watched the incident watch the resolution." And so, the hotel agreed. Another live broadcast was scheduled. This, a joint press event at a neutral space, the Boston Civic Forum. Hundreds attended in person. Thousands tuned in online. Elijah stood on stage first. Alone, no notes, no speech, he began. "When I walked into that hotel, I just wanted a room. When I walked out, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect the internet, or the outrage, or the opportunity." Pause. But I know what it feels like to be 17, smart, capable, invisible. So if there's a way to turn this moment into momentum for someone else, I'm listening. Then came the hotel representatives. Suits, solemn faces, this time no PR fluff, just the president of the company, and his voice, a little shaky. We failed. Not just Mr. Carter, but the values we claim to represent. We allowed bias to operate unchecked, and we were called out, as we should have been. He turned to Elijah. We offer not just an apology, but a commitment. We will fund a $2 million scholarship initiative focused on racial equity in hospitality and STEM fields. We ask you, Mr. Carter, to name it. Not to clear our name, but to build something better than the one we failed to uphold. The room was silent. All eyes turned to Elijah. He stepped forward, took the mic. You want my name? Then, you must accept my conditions. This fund will be independently managed, community-led, transparent, with annual reporting available to the public. I will not be your brand redemption, but I will be part of the solution. A beat. We'll name it the Belong Fund. Because everyone deserves to belong somewhere without being questioned at the door. Applause broke out. Not polite, not performative. Real. News outlets around the world carried the moment. The Belong Fund began trending instantly. Dozens of other companies pledged matching donations. Applications from students flooded in within 24 hours. And Elijah, he left the stage that day. Quiet, grounded, not victorious, but useful. That night, in an interview, he was asked, "How does it feel to have your name on something so powerful?" He replied, "Names are heavy, but if mine helps someone else walk through a door, it's worth the wait." A week passed, then another, but the ripples didn't stop. The Belong Fund hit $5 million in pledges by day 10. Tech companies matched. Hospitality groups followed. Universities started inquiring, not just about sponsorship, but about reform. Elijah didn't need to lead every meeting. He didn't need to speak at every event. His name was now doing the work. But his story was still doing more. Letters arrived, not tweets, not DMs. Letters, dozens, then hundreds. From students, from teachers, from people who had once felt invisible and now felt seen. One came from a 16-year-old girl in Atlanta, handwritten. "I'm not smart like people expect. I'm smart like people ignore. Watching you walk into that room and not get mad, but get powerful. That changed how I walk through the world." Another came from a hotel receptionist in San Diego, typed, "I work front desk, I'm white. I watched the footage, I cried, because I've caught myself hesitating, not always on purpose, but still. And I just wanted to say, thank you for showing me where I needed to grow." At a small airport weeks later, Elijah stopped at a coffee kiosk, ordered an espresso. The barista, a young man mid-20s, hesitated before handing him the cup, then asked softly, "Are you the Elijah?" Elijah smiled gently. "I'm just Elijah." The young man grinned. "Well, thanks for being that too." At a university panel, Elijah spoke about technology and equity. Afterward, a freshman approached him, short, nervous, holding a folder. "I used to think being black in tech meant I had to hide parts of myself. Now I think maybe I should build something so powerful no one can ignore who I am." Elijah shook his hand. "Build it, then leave the door open behind you." Even people who once doubted him began to speak. A popular podcast host, known for controversial takes, posted, "I admit it. I thought Elijah Carter was just chasing clout. But then I watched the full video, and I realized I've never had to think about what dignity looks like in defense. I've never needed to." But not everyone applauded. Some called him too polished. Others accused him of playing victim. A few said, "There's always two sides." Elijah never clapped back. He just quoted James Baldwin once. "To be black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage." Then added, "But I choose to shape that rage into resolve." One moment, though, stayed with him. He was back in Boston for a closed-door session with youth leaders. Afterward, as he stepped into the lobby of the Civic Forum, a woman approached, late 40s, well-dressed, tearful. She didn't speak right away. Then whispered, "I was the night manager. I wasn't the one who turned you away, but I stood nearby. I didn't stop it. I didn't say anything." Her voice broke. "And I've lived with that silence since." Elijah looked at her, not with pity, not with pride, but with presence. "Then break it now." She nodded, held her chest. "Thank you." That night, Elijah journaled a single sentence. The quietest moments echo the longest, and he slept deeply for the first time in weeks. The invitation came in a thick white envelope, embossed, elegant. At the top, National Forum on Equity and Innovation, Washington, D.C., Elijah was being asked to deliver the keynote address, not a panelist, not a guest. The keynote. He reread the letter twice, then called Pops. "You know I've never worn a tux, right?" Pops chuckled through the phone. "Well, you better start practicing that Black James Bond energy, son." Elijah laughed, really laughed. It felt good. Like sunlight after a storm. The event was massive. Leaders from business, government, education, and media all gathered. The kind of room where diversity usually lived on PowerPoint slides. But this time, it was walking to the podium. In real life, wearing a tailored navy blue suit. No stage theatrics, no teleprompter, just Elijah. And the truth. He began with a story. Not the story. His story. "When I was 12, I built a water-powered radio out of soda bottles and scrap wire. I showed it to my teacher. She blinked and said, 'That's cute, but maybe stick to something easier next time.' She never asked how it worked. Years later, I walked into a hotel with the same hands, same mind, and again, no one asked what I'd built." Pause. "So I decided to stop waiting for rooms to welcome me. I started building new rooms." Applause, steady, growing. But Elijah raised a hand. "Don't clap for the story, build from it. The real power of being seen is how you turn that sight into structure, how you change policy, change pay gaps, change pipelines. Because representation is only the beginning. Redesign is the work." He spoke for 24 minutes, but it echoed for days. Clips went viral, again. But this time, not because of anger, because of clarity. A tech CEO quoted him in a company-wide town hall. "We've spent years trying to be more inclusive, but now we're asking, are we rebuilding the building or just repainting the lobby?" A senator from Illinois referenced him in a committee hearing. "If Mr. Carter can build a fund, from a moment of injustice, surely we can build legislation from centuries of it." Even in classrooms, something shifted. A fifth-grade teacher in Houston printed Elijah's quote and taped it to the wall. "Don't clap for the story, build from it." Underneath, her students wrote their own dreams. "I want to be the first Latina engineer at NASA. I want to open a school where everyone is kind. I want to help people walk again." But perhaps the most moving moment was private. At a small event in D.C., a man approached Elijah backstage, early 60s, glasses, carrying a worn leather folder. "Mr. Carter, I don't want a photo. I just want to give you something." He opened the folder. Inside, a newspaper clipping, faded, black and white, from 1972, headline, "Local black student denied hotel room on prom night." A photo of a boy, maybe 17, standing outside in a suit. The man whispered, "That was me." Elijah looked at the photo, then at the man. Neither spoke for a long moment. Then Elijah said, "You carried that for 50 years. The man nodded. "But I think you just helped me put it down." That night, Elijah wrote in his journal, "We think justice is loud, but sometimes it's quiet hands letting go of old pain." And in that stillness, he found a kind of peace. It had been 11 months since the video, since the press tour, since the apology, since everything changed. But the building? It hadn't moved. Still stood there, tall, glassy, cold in the daylight, Fairmont, Devon. At least, that used to be. Its name. Elijah hadn't stepped inside since that night. Not even passed by, but today, he had been invited back. Not as a guest, not as a victim, not even as a keynote speaker, but as someone the walls would never forget. The hotel had undergone changes, new ownership, new staff, new values. Or at least, that's what the new press materials claimed. But the biggest change, a new space. On the ground floor, where the old lounge once stood, the very one Elijah had walked past, unseen, unheard, now stood a freshly renovated space. Polished oak floors, wide windows, warm lighting, and above its entrance, engraved in smooth brass, the Carter Lounge. Elijah stood outside the double glass doors. Took a breath. In his hand, a small note from Pops. "You didn't burn it down. You built something bigger." He smiled, folded the note, stepped in. The room was quiet. For now, a soft jazz trio played in the corner. Waitstaff prepared for the guests to arrive. But Elijah wasn't there for the party. He walked slowly across the room, stopped in front of a wall plaque near the bar. It read, "Dedicated to the countless voices that were once ignored, and to the courage it takes to be heard anyway." Inspired by Elijah Carter behind him, footsteps. A woman approached. Late 30s, black, wearing the hotel's new deep green uniform. "Mr. Carter?" He turned. "Yes," she smiled, nervously. I work the front desk here now. Just wanted to say, you're the reason I applied." Elijah blinked. "Really?" "Yeah. I saw your clip, told myself, if he can walk through that door and keep his head high, then maybe I can work behind it and keep it open for someone else." She hesitated. "Hope that's okay to say." Elijah looked at her and warm, quiet, steady. "That's more than okay. That's exactly the point." An hour later, the room was full. Not just with press and executives, but with former interns from the Belong Fund, youth leaders, young black hospitality students wearing sharp suits, hopeful eyes. The new hotel CEO stepped onto a small platform, spoke briefly, then turned to Elijah. "Mr. Carter, would you do the honor of saying a few words to open this space?" Elijah walked slowly to the mic, looked around, not just at the faces, but at what they represented. "This room used to be a space I wasn't welcome in. Now, it's a space I belong in, not because I forced my way in, but because we changed the locks." Pause. "This isn't about me. It never was. This is for the next person who walks through those glass doors and doesn't have to carry the weight I did, because someone, somewhere, held it first." Applause. Warm, lasting. After the event, Elijah stayed behind, sat alone in a leather chair near the window. He watched as the new receptionist, the woman from earlier, greeted a guest, black, elderly, holding hands with his wife. She smiled. Took his ID, handed him a key card. No hesitation, no second looks, just hospitality, as it should have always been. Elijah leaned back, closed his eyes, and thought, not about the past, but about everything yet to come. It came on a Wednesday morning, wrapped in brown paper. No return address, just his name. To Elijah Carter. Inside the envelope, a simple lined sheet of paper, folded twice. Taped at the top was a school ID photo. A boy. Maybe 11. Big eyes. Gap-toothed. Smile. Skin the same deep brown Elijah saw in the mirror at that age. The handwriting was messy, but honest. It read, "Hi, Mr. Carter. My name is Marcus. I'm in 6th grade. I saw your video in class. My teacher showed it because we're learning about justice. I didn't know people like you existed. I thought rich black people only lived on TV. But you looked like my cousin. You talked like my uncle, but you stood like no one I've ever seen. When the hotel man said no, I thought you'd yell. But you didn't. You just stood and walked away. But then you did more. You made the place yours. Now my dream is to own a hotel one day. Like a cool one, with music and pillows that smell. Like lavender. I want to call it The Place. so no one has to ask if they belong. Thank you for showing me how to stand. I drew this for you, taped beneath the letter. A drawing in crayon. A tall building. Golden letters at the top. The place out front. A boy in a suit. And next to him, a sign. All welcome. No exceptions. Elijah stared at it for a long time. Not because he was surprised, but because he suddenly realized this entire journey, every interview, every quote, every speech, every thread, it was never really about the hotel, it was about this. He folded the letter, placed it in a frame, sat back in his chair, and whispered to no one, "That's the legacy." That evening he shared a photo of the letter on his private page, captioned, "We fight so the next generation can build. Marcus, I see you. Keep going." Within hours, the photo circled the internet, not because it was trending, but because it touched something deeper. It became the full stop to a story people had followed for nearly a year, not with fireworks, but with a note and a drawing, from a boy who now believed the world had room for him. The next day, Elijah got back to work, emails, Zoom, speaking invites. The world hadn't stopped, but something inside him had settled, not in defeat, in peace. Because sometimes justice doesn't sound like applause. Sometimes it sounds like crayons on paper.